everyone, so I'm currently doing a review of The Return of Ultraman, which, as I've been told, is the best of the original Ultra series. And that video is taking a little time to put together because things have gotten out of my control this week. But while I was working on that video, something really amazing and crazy happened. And this is a piece of that video that was so weird that I broke it into its own video. So for those of you who don't know, Hideaki Anno is the mastermind behind Neon Justice Evangelion, and is now following up his unique take on Godzilla called Shin Gojira with a unique take on Ultraman, conveniently titled Shin Ultraman, which may or may not take place in the same universe, and if it doesn't, then it's at least a thematic sequel on just the general basis of what if Ultraman really happened, how would the government deal with it? Anyway, so as excited as I am that Hideaki Anno was finally doing his big budget reimagining / deconstruction of the original Ultraman, this is actually not the first time he's had a chance to do this. Because in 1982-ish, while as a student at Osaka Art University, Anno put together his student thesis film, which ironically is enough, was a small budget reimagining / deconstruction of the sequel to Ultraman, Return of Ultraman. Now, this story is kind of a well-known legendary flex of Anno's genius and skill at a young age. In fact, there was a Japanese drama series called Blue Blazes, which depicts the absolute existential horror that manga artist Kazuki Shimamoto had to go through while attending college in the same class as Anno, and being completely outclassed by him in every possible way on a day-to-day basis. So again, to put this into context, Kazuhiko was basically an average or above average college student, but at a time when Anno was attending college, Anno was already creating anime that was airing on TV as a mere side hustle. In fact, ironically enough, as crazy well as Anno was doing in college, he ultimately ended up dropping out because he was just getting too many legitimate jobs in the anime industry already. And on top of all of those lucrative employment opportunities, he ended up getting handed a contract from Hayao Miyazaki himself. Which, from my previous dealings with Miyazaki, I can see how that would have gone down. But anyway, so back to Anno's thesis film, The Return of Ultraman. So, this film is very rough around the edges, and unfortunately it really has not been preserved that well either, because, again, it started out as a fan film. So on my first watch, when I first saw it, I was in college myself, and I was very impressed by the idea and the effort, but I wasn't blown away by it. And the short is also a little bit random famous that at the end when Ultraman comes out, Ultraman is just Anno in an Ultraman jacket with his jeans and his tennis shoes still on. But yesterday, while I was working on this review, I watched it again for the first time in years. And this time, I was actually able to fully soak it all in, and therefore, I was actually blown away by it. So, do you know the big thing that changed for me between now and the first time I watched this as a kid? I actually watched The Return of Ultraman. Like, it's really impossible to be a fan of a deconstruction of something without knowing the original well enough to know what they deconstructed. Like, do you guys remember that Grim and Grey Power Rangers remake video that came out a few years back where, like, the Power Rangers were, like, doing cocaine and killing North Korean agents? Or an even better example was, like, that Seinfeld horror game, which probably makes zero sense if you've never seen Seinfeld. Well, anyway, I had never seen Return of Ultraman until this year. But now that I have seen Return of Ultraman, rewatching Anno's Return of Ultraman, I can see why it is brilliant. I can see all the nuances that Anno put in. Alright, so let's just break down the episode. So the episode starts with a cold opening, which most Ultraman episodes did not have at this time. The cold opening shows Tokyo at peace, and it's filmed in Anno's signature style. A young girl leaves for school, and as she's walking to school, she looks up to the sky and sees a glimmer. And before she can process what this glimmer is, she's dead. Jump cut to Matt headquarters, which is depicted here in a style where it is much more detailed and you see the building, which they never show you on the TV show. Matt coldly announces that a meteorite has just crashed into Hiratsune City in Tokyo, and on impact it has killed nearly 16,000 people. Cue the music! And then the amazing, amazing Ultraman song plays. So, Matt in this version just wears outfits that make them look a little bit more like the Earth Defense Force from Ultra 7. And I have to again point out that I am absolutely shocked at how high-tech the Matt face looks. Like, the planes are depicted in a way in this short that they look like actual planes compared to the show where they look like toys. And in a major upgrade, even if the film is shot on worse cameras and hasn't been preserved properly, like, it was a reoccurring theme in Return of Ultraman that Matt was just unapologetically bad at their job. They were this government-funded organization that wasted millions of dollars, billions of dollars, shot missiles aimlessly at kaijus, got their soldiers and civilians killed like literally almost every day, and they just never used their brain cells. So in this movie, Matt has been upgraded to like a step forward in terms of like their preparation and their technological level to be a little bit more like Nerve from Eva, but then they still have their corrupt and stupid leadership that keeps the theme of government incompetency intact. Anyway, so like I said, the music starts to play, and Anno used the unused but way more serious and way more awesome alternate opening for Return of Ultraman. Now, I fucking love this song because it's so zero fucks given. But anyway, so yeah, then we get into the episode. A series of random computer-generated images plays showing the destruction caused by the meteor, which I again have to point out is fucking insane for a college student film in 1981 to have sophisticated CGI maps and readouts at a time when Hollywood is just getting ballsy enough to greenlight Tron. So Matt is analyzing the meteor, and the meteor then suddenly hatches into a kaiju. And the Matt commander declares it's an alien invasion, raises the threat level to Red Alert 1, and dispatches the various Matt soldiers on their various activity. Then the planes and the missiles all come out, but you actually see them launch from these very specific looking and very realistic looking airplane hangars. You see them loading up the missiles, and this is all shit that the real Return of Ultraman would have just skipped over, so it's cool. Anyway, then the short introduces a new Ultraman named Hayakawa Ken. Now, for what it's worth, the name Hayakawa Ken is the name of the main protagonist from Kaitetsu Zubat, which was another super manly toku show from the 70s that I've already watched. Kaitetsu Zubat is like about a Japanese cowboy who goes to visit his best friend, and then his best friend is murdered, but then he leaves him an Iron Man suit, and then Hayakawa Ken vows to avenge his friend's death and wanders around Japan aimlessly with this Iron Man suit, beating up crime lords trying to solve this cold case. Anyway, Anno loved this show as a kid and became obsessed with the name, so in a lot of his frequent early works, he'll just name drop Hayakawa Ken for no reason. Like, damn, I would love to remake Zubat. Hope Anno does it too. Anyway, so the meteor hatches into a fairly technically impressive multi-stage kaiju, and one of the Matt members flies directly into the tail of the kaiju and immediately gets dragged down and killed by what seems to be its first form, which is mostly just a strange mass of tentacles, and very much reminded me of Shin Gojiro's first form where it was all tail. Anyway, so then the Matt captain has his son Shingo launch, and then Matt decides to escalate the situation. The Matt captain declares that he wants Matt to napalm the city. Now, if you guys don't know, Matt is an acronym for the Monster Attack Team, in that their first and really only objective is killing monsters / kaiju. Now, in the TV series, oftentimes Matt's actions would directly, or rather indirectly, result in civilian casualties, mass homelessness, and other net losses for the people of Japan in their goal to kill kaiju. But in this version of the story, Anno nudges it just a little bit further, whereas in the TV version, Matt wouldn't care if they killed civilians while they were trying to kill kaiju. In this version, Matt gives zero fucks from start to finish, and it's just straight up like, we have to kill this kaiju. If there are people in the way, fuck them. So Hayakawa straight up calls out the captain in the first time I've ever seen it in an Ultraman series. Now, he says this to himself, but he realizes that there are 5,000 injured people in this area that have not been evacuated yet. And the captain just says not to think about it, so Ultraman straight up napalms all of these fucking survivors. But then what makes it even more fucked up is after that, Hayakawa says to himself that he is killing these people for no reason because the monster isn't even in the area now. The monster has retreated underground, so literally Hayakawa is just begrudgingly following orders to napalm a monster that has already left, resulting in meaningless massive fatalities for any survivors or injured Japanese citizens still in this area of Tokyo, on the orders of Matt, a Japanese government entity. And as he's doing this, he thinks to himself that he could probably fix this situation if he was Ultraman, but he questions it when the answer is obviously yes. Anyway, so as soon as he finishes carpet bombing the civilians, the kaiju literally resurfaces very smugly from being underground. Now the kaiju is fully evolved, and it just goes further into wrecking Tokyo. And once again, this kaiju is presented as way more of an actual threat than anything in the actual Return of Ultraman. Matt then begins a full military assault on the kaiju, which is great because they've already killed all the civilians. So Ibuki comes in hot in a jet. The jet fires off a freeze wave that works on freezing the kaiju, but then the kaiju evolves past that and it deploys an AT field from Evangelion. So now all the Matt weapons are completely useless against the AT field. By the way, this is exactly what happened in Shin Gojira 2. Anyway, so Shingo's Matt jet drops its battery pack, and the battery pack crushes another row of houses, and then the jet crashes. And this is only the middle of the episode. So then we get a very classic on-brand Return of Ultraman post-battle jump forward. So apparently after that, the battle kept going. Matt used every possible weapon they had on the kaiju, but nothing worked. So now they've run out of ideas, they've come back to their base, they're stressed out, they're smoking cigarettes, and they've completely run out of ideas. So they decide that in a few hours at dawn, they're going to drop a nuclear warhead on Tokyo, and the threat level is raised to 4. The Matt headquarters sinks underground, like Tokyo 3 from Evangelion, to avoid the radiation from the warhead that they're about to drop. Meanwhile, Hayakawa can't fucking stand this bullshit anymore, and he pleads with the captain not to do this because they've already killed thousands of civilians, now they're going to kill millions. The civilian casualties from nuking Tokyo will just be absolutely insane, so Hayakawa goes AWOL. He tries to manually override the lockdown, but then all the Matt members tackle him, and then the fucking commander punches him in the face and asks if he's even human for the way he's acting. So Hayakawa gets fucking court-martialed and locked in his room. So then Hayakawa pulls out fucking Hideaki Anno's / Gendo Ikari's glasses. And then we get that trademark Anno shot of the glasses. And meanwhile, at the same time, the Matt Aro is being loaded up with stockpiles of nuclear missiles. And we see the sequence of the plane launching again, but this time the mood is completely somber and sad because he is definitely going to nuke Tokyo. He is definitely going to kill millions of people. And is he going to kill the kaiju? Nobody knows, and probably not because everything they've done up till now has not worked. So at this point, Hayakawa can't stand it anymore. He turns into Hideaki Anno Ultraman. By putting on Hideaki Anno's glasses, he transforms like Ultra 7 and fucking breaks out of the side of the building, which is fucking hardcore as hell, because I always wish that Ultraman would transform inside a building and just fucking wreck it, and fair enough, Anno's the first guy to do it. So then we now see it's daytime, and we can see the kaiju way more clearly than we could at night, and it looks fucking insane. This is way more detailed than any of the kaiju in Return of Ultraman. I mean, I think it's still a guy in a suit, but it looks fucking hardcore. It's got these quills, it's got acid coming out its mouth. Anyway, so the Matt captain goes off to nuke Tokyo, but Ultraman grabs his plane, stops him, takes out the nuke, and sets down the plane very gently, like it's a baby puppy or something. And then Ultraman screams his unintelligible screams at the captain while pointing to the captain that his son is still alive, crawling through the ruins of Tokyo. And that's a moment. Anyway, so then after that, Ultraman and the kaiju face off. But holy fuck, almost all the shots of Ultraman fighting are presented from a ground level, from a human perspective. And it looks completely different from any fight I've ever seen in an Ultraman series, which were usually at that like typical Godzilla 5 miles away in a helicopter perspective. Anyway, the Anno Ultraman is bizarrely impressive and bizarrely savage. He jumps way more, he runs way more, he screams like all the time. Like where the usual one would like only like scream like every couple of minutes when he got like hit or something. At the same time, I don't know, but with like the twist of this badly preserved footage and these perfectly perspective camera angles, as I'm watching this back, it looks completely like real life to me. Like it looks like this really happened. There was really a giant Hideaki Anno, and it was filmed with bad 1980s cameras. So anyway, the captain struggles to save his badly damaged son from the kaiju-torn city, and the Anno Ultraman finally just destroys the monster's AT field, and once again fucking rips him apart with all this savagery that normal Ultraman never had. Like he's running, he's kicking, he's jumping in the air. He does all the shit that I've seen an Evangelion do, but shit that I've never seen Ultraman do. And because I've never seen Ultraman do it, I'm impressed. And he only uses the Specium Beam, which is like Ultraman's main move, at the end as a really cool finishing move. Then after that, the nuke's going off. So he grabs the nuke and he flies into space, and all you see is him flying off and the nuclear explosion from the ground exploding in the sky, and you have no clue what actually went down. Anyway, so that's pretty much the high point of the episode. After that, it turns into a normal episode of Ultraman. Matt regroups, they do that typical end of the episode regroup thing where everything's honky-dory and everyone's laughing and everyone's back together, even though literally they've just killed like 5,000 citizens in a carpet bombing and they almost nuked Tokyo. Anyway, the Matt captain thanks Ultraman for saving his son and not letting him nuke Tokyo, and yeah, everything is just super, super corny from this point on. But that's normal for an Ultraman episode ending. That is Hideaki Anno's return on Ultraman. And Jesus Christ, I can actually see what he did here. So rewatching this makes me insanely hyped up for Anno Shin Ultraman. Now, Shin Ultraman is supposedly coming out this summer, but it may or may not be delayed due to COVID, especially since the COVID situation in Japan is taking a turn for the worse recently, and several high-profile Japanese movies have been delayed. Actually, as it is, Shin Ultraman doesn't even have a release date, it just says this summer, so we're gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, in this first Ultraman movie directed by Anno, he just really dialed up the incompetency and no fucks given nature of Matt, tied it in with his own general fear of nuclear weapons and his low opinion of the government and their incompetency. And yeah, he made that kaiju a formidable, if not slightly OP threat by giving it the evolution factor from Shin Gojira, the AT field from the Angels in the Evangelion. And his Ultraman, despite looking so dorky, was so fucking savage and brutal. And it just had all this agility that I'm not used to seeing Ultraman have. Anyway, so I guess that's my review video for the week. I was me and Buster Green, and sometimes I review the works of Hideaki Anno. Please subscribe to my channel. I definitely need more subscribers because I'm not monetized yet. Thank you guys. I'm out.